Good evening, everyone. Good evening, one and all. Happy Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, the last Tuesday of this fantabulous February. I'm your host, Sonja, for Northeast Streaming Sports at Night, host of Prim and Proper Sports as well. Have a very special treat, a reintroduction to some, but an introduction to some as well. The one, the only host of Mission Brief, CJ the Painkiller D. Simone. CJ, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you again for the invitation to come on and to join you to talk some sports tonight. We've got a few actually got a few different topics to cover tonight, and it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking
we have a lot. We have a lot, and shout out to the producers Linda and Mac over there at Northeast Streaming Sports. Download the Roku app and look for Northeast Streaming Sports, where they have 24/7 sports without the cost of cable. Lots of new shows, lots of new faces, and a plethora of sports knowledge from everything boxing, NHL, NFL, NBA, and more. So, welcome, one and all. And CJ, thank you once again for joining me. You're right. We have a lot of topics to discuss tonight, and we're going to just jump right into it. So, first and foremost, I have to touch on some college basketball for just a moment. Now, everyone that knows me knows I'm a huge Duke fan. And the other night, there's this thing that everyone seems to have, this storming the courts, storming the field. We saw it during a college football game where Tennessee not only stormed their field, but took the goalposts down, threw them in the Tennessee River out there in Knoxville, and just on and on and on. I mean, I'm all for celebrating, but now this key player from Duke has now suffered an injury, and so now they're looking into just what to think about when you're thinking about things of this nature. People celebrating, people are now being injured, and so Duke has a game coming up tomorrow against Louisville, one of their rivals. They also have a game against Virginia. And this is NCAA March Madness time that is loading up right before our very eyes. And Kyle Filipowski, the center, is actually the one when Wake Forest decided to storm the court in their victory over Duke, which is definitely a shock because Wake Forest has been good up and down, but now Kyle Filipowski has been injured by a fan nonetheless, not even another teammate, but a fan, and it was documented. It's been shared numerous times everywhere. And so what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to storm the court in celebration, especially because of the fact that getting a win over a rival, especially on your home court, yeah, it's a big deal. But the problem is now it's kind of getting to the point where it's starting to get a little bit out of hand. Like, I mean, I know that, I don't know, I don't want to make myself sound like the old man in the lawn chair on his porch yelling at the kids, get off my lawn. But unfortunately, we've kind of over time allowed unwritten rules to be broken by all of this. Well, my rights are being violated, or I pay a ticket for admission. If I want to run out to the court, I want to be able to run out to the court.
Right.
I get it if it's students, but there's really not a lot of situational awareness that's going on right there. And now, especially, you have one of the kids from Duke who ended up getting hit, almost got trampled, but still got injured over the incident. And now, instead of this being like a big victory celebration with like, oh, we got to win over Duke, yay, let's all celebrate. Now it's tainted by this because some Yahoo doesn't have situational awareness to watch where they're going. So again, it's just it to me. I don't have a problem with fans running to the court and mobbing the court, especially after something like this, after a big win. But you also have to be situationally aware of what's going on. Like mob the court after everybody gets off after everybody gets off the court. But I know that's kind of difficult because at the end of the game, some of the players are shaking hands, the coaches are shaking hands, the assistant players the assistant coaches are shaking hands, and then they go to their respective locker rooms. Like, wait till they're in the tunnel before you mob the court. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's very important because these young men most of the time are trying to get into the league. He's one of their star players, and like I said, this is March Madness. This is the time of year that teams try to solidify, their March Madness, their entrance into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And even at this very moment, we have Cincy versus Houston, that is the game that is just beginning now. Kentucky versus Mississippi State, Georgetown versus Nova, and then you have even Ball State versus Central Michigan right now. Clemson is playing Pitt right now. Western Michigan is versus Eastern Michigan. And a lot of games, just a lot of games are going on right now at this very moment on the NCAA level. Now we have the March Madness men's bracket predictions. This is the time of year that everybody kind of comes up and makes their predictions for the year. We got the number one seed Purdue out of the Midwest versus the number one seed of Houston, and Houston out of the South. The East is UConn, and Arizona is the number one seed for the West. And then you got all the way down to the 16th seed as well. These are big games that are coming up, big brackets that are coming up. You're going to probably be doing brackets across the number two seeds, Tennessee, Marquette, North Carolina, and Kansas. No surprise there. And then the three seeds are Baylor, Alabama, Iowa State, and Duke. So Duke hanging in there at number three despite an up and down season. They are still there. San Diego making a surprise run at the number four. San Diego State, Illinois, Auburn, and Creighton are all at number four. Then at the number five seed, you got Dayton, Clemson, Wisconsin, and Kentucky. And so to follow all these seeds beyond the number five seed, rounding out with the top 10, you got Wake Forest, Virginia, Gonzaga, and Boise State. So make sure you head on over to the NCAA's website page to kind of follow up on all those and get your brackets together, because this is March Madness. March rolls in here this weekend, and we've got like 48 hours left in February, and we will be 1/3 of the way into 2024. All right. Speaking of cheating or injuries and what have you, moving on over to the NBA. Looks like the Knicks are the topic of discussion again. Pistons Knicks game. Ref admits they have it wrong. A heated Monty in the post game. What are your thoughts on that now that this victory has been cemented? And it really wasn't even a victory.
Well, I mean, the Knicks a couple of weeks ago ended up getting screwed out of a game because of a bad call. And here we are again, where there is another bad call which screws a team out of a victory. So, again, NBA refereeing is now again at the forefront because you're starting to see these bad calls that are now deciding the outcome of games. And this is where I think that I know that they have replay in some, in some way, shape, or form that they should be able to look after and to look to. And I know that the game sometimes it's like the game will run quick except for the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. Then it's like, who's going to foul? Who's going to start doing this? Who's going to start doing that? And then all of a sudden it becomes a free throw contest. So for me, what I would want to see is if they take another 5-10 minutes to get the game to have the game go on, then go ahead, but get the call right. And that's why I feel like they should be instituting a little bit more replay. But that being said, I think also NBA referees need to also be cognizant that if you're not calling a particular foul or not be calling whether it's a travel, whether it's whatever. I'll be honest
Goaltending,
with you. Yeah.
goaltending. Yeah,
So whatever the infraction might be, if you're not going to call it on a regular basis throughout the entire game, and now all of a sudden in the fourth quarter you're going to find your whistle and you're going to start blowing every little thing, then that's something that also has to be looked at because it happens in the NFL. You
all
know,
the time.
yep.
Right.
So I mean, it's like guys are holding, guys are poking, guys are pulling, guys are doing this, guys are doing that. And, nobody says nothing in the first quarter, nobody says nothing in the second quarter. But sure as shit, with like 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, they magically found their whistle.
Right.
Let's have some consistency.
Yeah, you got everything in the NBA from backcourt violations to actual fouls for goaltending, double. I guess they still do double dribbling. I don't really see that too much.
It's been
But
a long time
you
since
know,
I've seen that.
yeah, a lot of calls there, but you're right. You'll see a game have very little calls, and then all of a sudden, the last few minutes, it's almost like, is this game rigged? How people think about the NFL, because when the game is tight and you're just like, okay, I know this team is winning. Why is this suddenly an issue? Is like to make it more competitive or what? And you just never know. I think it's kind of a thing across the arena with sports as a whole that we see this type of behavior. And I think it would basically, to get the right call every time or as close to every time as possible, you'd almost have to get former players across the board, like Byron Williams, NFL great, was just talking about, from the New York Giants, was just talking about how the Retired Players Association was talking about getting former players to ref the NFL games. And I think we may be at a point that it may be similar for the NBA to get retired NBA players to be able to officiate these games, because maybe it just takes having someone having played the game to actually know the game.
Yeah, that would actually be a great idea. I mean, considering whoever retired would actually want to come out of retirement and referee a game. Um, that would actually be a really cool concept. Or having retired NBA players come in and talk to these referees, and it's like, this is an example of a foul, not this. This,
Right.
but not this. And I
Right.
think coming from a player's perspective, I think it would be able to assist the referees a little bit more because now you have somebody who has been in hand-to-hand combat out there in the field of battle and can actually attest to, well, this is considered a foul, but this is considered a foul. Now, if you go by the interpretation of the rule, then the interpretation of the rule is subject to exactly that interpretation. But as far as this, different examples, I really think that there's a myriad of different things that they can do that could actually improve it. And that's actually a great idea. I think you should pitch that.
I only wish. So speaking of NBA news, we got some Clay Thompson news. Clay has been benched, and so now here we are looking at whether or not he will remain with Golden State. And he has come out and basically said, he wants to retire a Warrior. He actually hopes that Golden State will show him some grace and allow him an opportunity to get back to where he was once. They have literally disintegrated the entire Warriors that we used to know back in the day, for what we now see. So Clay has expressed an interest in wanting to stay with that organization, and so we'll just have to go and see where that goes. And speaking of NBA news, LeBron James has come out and had to defend Bronny because Bronny has officially been dropped from the 2024 NBA mock draft. And he's quoted as saying, only the work matters. Now, it's been no secret that LeBron James is kind of going into his twilight years, but has made no secret about his intentions for remaining in the league just so that he could possibly play with Bronny. Unfortunately, Bronny had this health injury, cardiac arrest to be specific. Thank God he survived it. But he is back, but lost quite a bit of time to be able to qualify to play in the league. And as a result, now LeBron's son Bryce is almost up to the same level of being able to play with Bronny and LeBron. But it looks like that may be just kind of a thought at this point, especially with Bronny not being that good. I mean, it's got to be a high standard to live up to being LeBron James' son. I mean, the name is just a dot of the sentence that we need to see the comparison. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, look, for them to drop Ronnie from the 2024 mock draft, I really don't think that LeBron should worry about it. And I really don't even think that Bronny should worry about it. I think that whatever that Bronny needs to do is continue to work on his craft, continue to sharpen his skills, most of all, continue to monitor his health and make sure that he's healthy enough to still play the game at the professional level. And then go from there. Because, I mean, look, take a look at Tom Brady. He is the poster child for talking about a late round pick who nobody thought of, nobody gave a second look at, who got into a good situation in New England, worked hard, won multiple Super Bowls. And he was a guy that was what? He was drafted in seventh round, sixth round, or something like that. Um, he always used the round, the position when he was drafted as motivation for him to continue to grind and continue to work on his craft. All right. So as far as Bronny's concerned, health comes first. As long as you're medically cleared to play and you're able to play and you're able to withstand the rigors of playing, doesn't matter where you play. Doesn't matter what team drafts you. Doesn't even matter where you get drafted. Just go out there, let your skills do the talking.
And that's what you got to do. I mean, sometimes you got to hush the naysayers. That's what it all comes down to. So we wish Bronny the best, and we'll just have to see if LeBron's going to hang in there long enough for Bronny or Bryce to come to where they are. Switching gears to some NFL news. So let me just start off with the elephant in the room because I've had people blowing up my inbox ever since this happened, sending me this video because everyone knows that I'm a Panthers fan. Everyone knows that I'm a huge Cam Newton fan. And so Cam was at this event in Atlanta, his hometown, this weekend. Actually, a charity event. He puts on various charity events throughout the city, throughout the year, football camps, what have you. And the details are still sorted, CJ. Like, we don't have specifics as to what happened, but Cam was attacked by between 4 to 7 supposedly TSP boys, whatever that is. I'll just say teaspoon because that's the acronym for teaspoon. Teaspoon boys. And this video is virally circulating. Cam goes into Superman Cam status from the Panthers. I mean, he clearly had a flashback as to throwing off the D line who was coming to attack him because he drops back, pulls one of the guys out from the group that are attacking him. But this entire time, now Cam, everyone who's seen Cam, he has a lot of hair. He's been growing these locks out for quite some
Mm-hmm.
time. But he is looking like Gandor over there. I mean, this hat does not move. The hat is the real MVP, CJ, because Cam was ducking and shucking and throwing and tossing, and this hat was rigid like a ruler. And so I know. First of all, did you see that video, CJ? Have you
I
seen the
actually
video?
did not, but the way that you're describing it now, I actually want to go
I've
see
got to
it.
see if there's a possible way that we could show the audience for anyone who did not get the, I don't even want to say the privilege of seeing this video. Um, but I will say it was, I didn't know whether to laugh or be mad that he was jumped like that. And hello, Brian Snow. Brian says, I would love to have both of you as guests on my show soon. All right, Brian, we'll see what you got going and see who you are. Thanks for tuning in. I'm always down to
Snow
be on everyone's
Man,
show.
that's my guy right there, Brian
So
Snow.
you know him. That's great.
Dude.
Oh, hello, Brian. Thank you so much. I'll come on. Just CJ can set it all up and send you my info. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm gonna find this video while we are still talking and so I can show our audience. I gotta figure out a way to share on here so that anyone can see what's going on because this is insane. It is absolutely insane. Let's see if I can just go to maybe like my share screen real quick. Uh, let me see if it'll let me go. So I have let me just go to Chrome real quick and I will set up the Cam Newton fight for everyone. Or should I say the Cam Newton MMA? Because this video is off the
You
chain.
sure he wasn't in auditioning for like a kung fu movie?
I don't know. It was a 7x7 tournament, 7-on-7 football tournament. And they literally just ended up just attacking him. Let me see if this will let me share it to everybody. Go back. Let me hit share. And let me know that you can see this, CJ.
Yep, there it is.
All right,
I
going
see
to a commercial.
a commercial right now.
Yeah, right now. So let me go here and let's see what we got here.
Insurance, making it easy
right,
to get started with quality care.
We got these little commercials. All right. So you see the video here. Cam, someone got an up close side. You see that, CJ?
Yep.
I mean, it is.
Man, you ain't kidding that the hat is like the real MVP. He must got gorilla
His
glue on that
hat
thing right there.
is not moving. I mean, this
So,
video has been
props to the
everywhere.
special effects guy.
Yes, credit to Marquise Hollins, local news XTMX. You'll see afterwards, security rushes in, and no one knows how this all started. Let me start it over for anyone who may be just getting a chance to see it. Here we are. Cam slams one. He drops back out of the pocket from the main event. And
he evades one.
Yes.
He evades two.
And now security is there. So no one knows who these hooligans are. No one knows how this started. But all we know is we saw Cam go into morph effect. There it is one more time for us.
That is crazy right there.
The hat does not move, CJ.
I know.
The hat does not move. Look, the hat is there despite everything. That hat is immobile.
Shout out to Gorilla Glue, right there. That's one hell of a product.
And then you see Atlanta police. Yes, you see Atlanta police in and everything. No one knows what happened. But yeah, that's the gist of what went on with this. And here we are. It's just like, wow. What in the world happened? And hi, Earlene. So Earlene is my sister that literally just got back to Virginia from my birthday party this weekend. So hi, Earlene. So glad to know you landed safely back in Virginia. And thank you for jumping right on and tuning in. She literally just landed as I was going live. So hello to her. All right. So everyone coming on, drop your thoughts on that video I just showed you about Cam Newton. And if you have any tea that I don't have as to what really started all of this, please let us know. Matter of fact, I'm going to hashtag Cam Newton so everybody will know just what's what. All right. So moving along here to our next topic. Well, CJ, actually, before we talked about the hat, what were your thoughts on that?
That's just absolutely like insane. But also, again, one of the things this is the reason why it is so difficult for the public to interact with superstars. regardless whether they are active or whether or not they're retired. The reason being is because there was always somebody out there with some sort of an axe to grind who's going to look to do something to make a statement. Now, I don't know what precipitated this fight. I don't know what it was about. Maybe it's a turf war, maybe it's a gang war, maybe somebody said something about somebody's mother or whatever. But it's these things like this, it's incidents like this, which give people like us the inability to be able to reach out to pro athletes, regardless of whatever the sport is, to actually be able to sit down and to have a conversation with them because they are afraid. They're afraid of stuff like this happening. But not only that, they're also afraid of people asking them questions based on a story that's in the tabloids or whatever. So a lot of times it's like you have to sign an NDA or you got to talk to the agent, and the agent will tell you you can only ask this question, this question, and this question, or whatever. And it's like for somebody like me, you know, you're with Jimmy Jeffcoat and I on Wednesday nights when we sit down at the panel. And I mean, just for the fact that Jim is there, you know, just for the fact that Byron Williams is out there as well and does a show here on NESSP. Just for the fact that we have retired pro athletes that are able to share their experiences with, to me, that's fascinating.
Mhm.
I remember when I first did when I first started my podcast, this was when it was CNC Football Factory. I got the privilege of being able to do an interview with Bobby Jackson, who was one of my favorite players growing up for the New York Jets.
That's good.
And even though I only had 30 minutes with the man, it was 30 minutes that I will never, ever forget for my entire life because just the ability to hear him talk about stuff in the locker room, how an NFL locker room operates, what the players on the field are. I mean, you're talking about somebody who went toe to toe with Wesley Walker, one of the best receivers in the NFL back in the day, on a daily basis for practice. So, I mean, to me, it's like stories like that you're not going to find in your local newspaper. You're not going to find them on your local radio station because those are stories told by the athlete themselves. And the problem is that here we are today, we're treating pro athletes like they're circus animals. And now, every time they go out in public, they get mobbed, they get swarmed. Everybody wants an autograph, everybody wants a picture. And then you got some Yahoo that wants to walk up to them and start a fight, like
Right.
these idiots over here did with this video. All right. I mean, if I saw Cam Newton in the street, I would love the opportunity to be able to shake his hand, even though he didn't play for my team, even though he didn't play for the Jets, just for the mere fact that he played and I watched him play. I would love the opportunity to shake his hand and be like, hey, you know, I would love to ask you about your NFL experience. Because to
Yeah,
me, that's the fascinating part.
Yeah, I actually met Cam about 2 months ago in person. I had seen him pretty close up on the field a few years ago, but he came in a restaurant I was at here in Atlanta, and it's funny because everyone here knows I'm a Panthers fan and knew he played for us, but he's from Atlanta. So I used to have friends of mine that would be like, girl, you would love to be where I am. Cam just walked in, and it would be like a Cam sighting. It's kind of like this little hashtag we had going, Cam sighting. And most of the time I'd be somewhere there was nowhere I could get over to just say hi. This specific time I happened to be out to dinner. He walked right behind me. I didn't even see him. He goes out onto the patio, and my friend's like, that was Cam Newton. I was like, what? And I was like, no, I thought it was like, 2 Chainz, because I just saw the locks. And I go out on the patio, there he was. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, excuse me, do you mind if I just say hello to you, Cam? He was like, hey. So I was like, listen, I told him who I was. He's like, yeah, I heard of your group. I said, yeah, and I was like, I just like to shake your hand. He's like, sure. He's like, by the way, you got your phone with you? And he takes my phone and takes a selfie. And he's just really cool. Everything was yes, ma'am, real respectful. And I have that picture and posted on TikTok, had like 900 some views right away because it's Cam Newton. And a lot of people, he brought fun to football. A lot of people didn't like him if you had to play against him because they felt like the whole dab thing was a lot. But for the most part, he brought fun to football, especially for kids and for anyone that actually liked him. So he did, bring enjoyment to the games. And we got quite a few wins. We went to the Super Bowl. So I don't know what happened that got him jumped, but I guess it'll be found out a little bit later on. Who knows? He's had a couple of other videos he put up. He was in New Orleans at another event a while back, and some kids were cursing him out there, and he was like, "Wow, y'all are disrespectful." So you just never know, what actually happened in that situation. And hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris Palme. CDP Sports out of Ontario. I'm on his show off and on, and he's on mine. All right, switching gears. We hope Cam is better. I'm sure he has actually no qualms about this. So it looks like Jimmy Johnson is officially a consultant of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we talked about this with Jim Jeffcoat sometimes because, of course, that's during his day with the Cowboys. That Jimmy Johnson reignited the Cowboys to the, I want to say, ad nauseum Cowboys we see today, like America's team. So my thoughts on this are Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson had a riff. Like they've never really seen eye to eye on things. And so now the fact that Jerry wants to get this win, I've talked about this on a previous show. He wants to get this win while he still has some win in himself, in his physical body. He's reached out to Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy's told this radio station down in Miami that he's a consultant now to the Cowboys. What effect do you think that would have, if any, on Mike McCarthy being this lame duck? This is, they already said they're not renewing him. Dak Prescott having the 12-5 stigma, I like to call it, because that's where he gets and that's where he leaves the last 3 seasons. What can, Jimmy Johnson gave a really soul-stirring pep rally during their first playoff game against Green Bay, but it was short-lived. Can Jimmy make a difference in Dallas?
I think he can. I think just the mere fact of him being there and being that he will be able to be a wealth of, such a wealth of information because he has such a wealth of knowledge. And plus, of course, Jerry Jones. I mean, Jerry Jones absolutely loves Jimmy Johnson, regardless of how many fights they have. And that's because of the fact that he won Super Bowls for Jerry Jones. So I think that this, in fact, is a pretty smart move for the Cowboys to do. This is also the key fact that I think that a lot of people are looking at this as a negative for Mike McCarthy. I don't see it that way. I think it's a positive because Mike McCarthy will now be able to bounce ideas off of Jimmy Johnson and say, I saw you guys be successful in this time period. What did you guys end up doing that made you successful? And what is it that I could do with mine from a Hall of Fame coach that could help me up my game, regardless whether my contract was being renewed or not? Because even if my ass is showing the door, as soon as I get another job, whatever information that I got from Jimmy Johnson, being able to help me be a better coach is going to help me go to another job and another team and succeed. So for the Cowboys organization, for the Cowboys players, the Cowboys coaching staff, even for Mike McCarthy, you can't look at this as anything more than a positive, that you actually have a tunnel from the past to now who can help you build the future that you want to build in Dallas.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting narrative to follow and pay attention to because let's be honest, this is probably their last saving hope bringing Mr. Johnson back to this organization with such a pivotal time. not only from the coaching standpoint, but from the quarterback standpoint with Dak Prescott. So we're going to be looking to see that. And then we've got a lot of wide receivers. In addition, I don't know if Dallas could use a good wide receiver. I know they got some stuff going on with CD Lamb and all that stuff. Looks like they had like a little riff on the sideline, but looks like they're pouring out. They got a lot of wide receiver free agents that are becoming available, and T. Higgins is one of the top ones. T. Higgins, you got Mike Evans, you got Michael Pittman Jr., as well as Calvin Ridley Jr., Gabe Davis, Daryl Mooney, Tyler Boyd, and Odell Beckham Jr., as well as Curtis Samuel and Marquise Brown, all wide receiver free agents. I know the Panthers need a wide receiver, so these teams, that are looking, who knows, Dallas may add to what they have. And speaking of adding to what they have, the Russell Wilson saga continues. So just when we thought Russell was going to be released from Denver, we see now he may not be released. We see that he comes out and says he does not want to be released as well. He wants to continue to play. He feels like he has at least 2 Super Bowls left in him, was what he was quoted as saying. And he wants to continue to play in Denver. Now, I don't think he was specific about wanting to play with Sean Payton, but he does want to remain in Denver. What are your thoughts on that?
Russell Wilson is like the thing that just won't go away. I really just, it's kind of funny. And I'm going to bring this up as a reference because it was actually brought up on the ESPN Get Up show. I don't know if you get the opportunity to watch it at all, but I get to watch it from time to time. Yes. And Mike Tannenbaum made a very, very bold statement that he thought that the New York Jets should actually look into acquiring Russell Wilson as a backup for Aaron Rodgers. And the entire set of Get Up basically thought that maybe he was hallucinating. He might have, sniffed some helium off camera. Maybe he was in the bathroom with a little, smoking a joint or a roach or something before he came out. Maybe he took a couple of sips of Jack, in the little boot flask or whatever. Because they were all like, first of all, why would Russell Wilson want to go to New York as a backup? Number one. And number two, why would the New York Jets do something stupid like that to bring in somebody like that to be a backup? Right. Because it's going to cost, and because if he's not going to be 100% released, okay, or if he was given an outright release, there's no saying that, he's going to go, I'll come in for $5 million, $6 million. But what was interesting is Tannenbaum made the point that Russell Wilson's career right now is at rock bottom. So he basically needs to go and get himself out of Denver, go to another team to reinvent himself, whether he sits for a year or not, because he still thinks that he can be a starter. So he would still need to go to another team and reinvent himself. But I don't think that the New York Jets is the place to do it. But this was the rationale why Mike T said that the Jets should consider bringing Russell Wilson in. Now, that being said, you have no idea the sigh of relief that Russell Wilson wants to stay in Denver, and now there's the possibility that he might not be released.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Honestly,
so up and down saga.
Let the circus stay in Denver. Okay, as much as people want to laugh at the New York Jets and say that we're a dysfunctional mess and we're a dysfunctional organization and so on, well, you know what? There's another one who's inching up the rear close behind, and it's the Denver Broncos. Because you have a head coach who wants to do things his way, and if you don't do things his way, then you're either going to sit or he's going to cut you or whatever. Or there's, I'm cleaning up the mess from somebody else's guy, or I'm clean. This team had no talent, and Jerry Jeudy is not that good. Like, It fascinates me what's going on in Denver, but it's not the kind of fascinating that you want to sit there and like, oh yeah, this is really getting good. The fascination of it is that it's turning into a train wreck, and you're trying to go like this, but you can't quite turn away because you're curious to see if the bodies are going to start flying all over the place once the train hits impact.
Right. Like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? It's so
Right.
bad you cannot look away.
And this is the reason why it's like, okay, he's staying, he's going, who cares?
Mhm.
Wake me up when you actually have something to report. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things. And you're talking about Russell. You also look at L'Jarius Sneed. The Chiefs are now prepping the franchise tag for him, open to trading for him. Sneed went on social media right after the Chiefs Super Bowl win. I guess a couple of days after, maybe a day. I don't remember the timeline. Basically saying, pay me my money. Pay me my money. And looks like the Chiefs are like, you know what? We're probably not going to pay your money. So let's just give you the franchise tag and we're open for a trade. You know, in my opinion, L'Jarius is good, but he had a costly penalty during the Super Bowl that could have cost him the game when he did the face mask against Brandon Ayuk. That could have cost had San Francisco capitalized on that penalty, we probably would have a non-overtime Super Bowl, and the 49ers may have been the Super Bowl champs because they could have, scored. You just never know. And that game was close to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, they're just like, you know what? We're open for a trade. And that came out today from the Chiefs news around 3 hours ago. Also, the Bengals are leaving their door partially open for tagging T. Higgins. We talked about him earlier. The general manager for Devontae Adams, general manager for the Raiders, is coming out saying they will not be seeking to trade Devontae in the offseason. That's by Paul Gutierrez. And, meanwhile, you got the Chargers. They got big stuff going on here with having Jim Harbaugh come aboard. They are being quiet on any news about Allen Williams, Mack, or Bosa. So we don't know if Khalil is coming. We just don't know what's going to happen. Meanwhile, you got Arizona looking positive because they're talking about when Kyler Murray comes back and he's healthy, because we've seen him come back before. We're hoping he can remain healthy during the offseason and into spring training, the OTAs, all that stuff they got going up. They're thinking that he's going to really flourish in this next season. Meanwhile, the Falcons have released their veteran tight end, Jonnu Smith, today. So they're getting rid of some players to try to move around, as I like to call them, chess pieces. And the Chicago Bears are going to be making a quarterback call as quickly as possible. There's been an up and down conversation about Justin Fields with the draft coming up pretty soon here. They have the number one pick, of course, from Carolina, the number one draft pick. It's been a lot of chatter as to whether or not they will draft a quarterback and release Justin Fields, trade him elsewhere. But right now, that is quickly approaching. The decision has not been made, but it is quickly approaching. So we will soon see. Justin has started his own drama, unfollowing the Bears, following the Falcons, just keeping a lot of stuff going. And because we always see basically this scenario where the different teams kind of like keep their own stuff going off and on. Sometimes the players kind of stir the narrative. So when you see that happening, you kind of got to look at everything from the standpoint of, okay, this is all for, as Oregon's coach said, clicks and likes. So here we are with that. Wrapping up with a little final NFL news. Unfortunately, sadly, the wife of late Packers great Bart Starr, Sherry Starr, has passed away at the age of 89. We know that Bart himself died in 2019, and so those two have now been reunited. We definitely are thoughts and prayers are with the Star family. She was a philanthropist. She had an organization, Rawhide Youth Services, that helped at-risk youth in the Madison, Wisconsin area. They worked closely with Sherry Starr, and she did pass away. The Star's Children's Fund, it was an endowment the Stars created to finance childhood cancer research. They talked about her in depth and said she passed away peacefully at her home in Birmingham, Alabama. Her son, Bart Starr Jr., told WBAY TV that she had been battling cancer for years. Now, we know Cherry and Bart were high school sweethearts and were married for more than 60 years before he died in 2019. He led the Green Bay Packers to league championships in 1961, 1962, 1965, and 66, as well as victories in the first Super Bowl in 1967 and the second Super Bowl in 1968. He was named the NFL MVP in 1966 and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1977. He also served as the Packers head coach from 1975 through 1983. We send our condolences and thoughts to the family of Sherry Starr, age 89, of the Green Bay Packers, great Bart Starr. All right, moving along, CJ. Let's talk about a little NHL news. I know this is your favorite topic, and NHL is heating up. And we got these Islanders and all these folks all over the place. What's going on in our NHL news? I'm going to let you actually kind of spearhead this.
Well, the NHL trade deadline is slowly approaching, and there have been a couple of names that have been looked at, especially from the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. One Adam Henrique and Frank Petrano. Two teams in particular have their eyes on both of them, one being my beloved New York Rangers, and also another team has quietly emerged, the Edmonton Oilers, who have now shown a little bit of interest in not only Adam Henrique, but also on, I think it was Sam Otter or something, or something to that effect. But Edmonton would probably, if they are going to pull off some kind of deal, would probably need a third team involved, as they only have $2.47 million under the cap. So it'd be interesting to see if Edmonton were in fact to pull a deal, were to try to make a trade or make a trade package to Anaheim to acquire Adam Henrique. It would be curious to see exactly how the particulars would work itself out. It's not impossible because the Rangers were able to do the same thing last year when they acquired Patrick Kane. They were able to acquire some cap space right at the deadline, and hence they were able to make Patrick Kane a Ranger for a very short period of time. But right now, you're starting to see teams that are separating themselves. So you're starting to also see teams that are heating up. All right, Carolina Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes. Okay, the Hurricanes. All right, they're still 7 points behind the Rangers, but they're still keeping up. They're still being competitive. All right, New Jersey Devils. They may possibly be buyers at the trade deadline because they're still trying to scratch and claw for that second wild card spot. Although they have about 5 teams they have to leapfrog, you never know what can happen. So, I mean, at this point, there's a lot of things that could happen in a very, very short amount of time. And this is when it starts being interesting. Like right now, ESPN Plus has live hockey going on. The Florida Panthers are leading the Sabres 2-1. Watch it. Even if you've never watched a hockey game before, I'm telling you, you will enjoy it and you will get hooked on it. I'm telling you.
You will.
So, again, just real quick, what I want to do is I want to review just the league standings and the playoff, sort of like the playoffs, to kind of give everybody an idea as to where everybody is. In the Atlantic, you got your top 3. You've got the Boston Bruins, the Florida Panthers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. In my opinion, those 3 are going to be locked in. I don't see anybody overtaking them. The Metropolitan Division, you've got the Rangers leading the division. You've got Carolina Panthers.
Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes. I don't know why I have the Panthers on my head.
It's because of me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, the Hurricanes, again, still 7 points behind the Rangers, and right behind them, the Philadelphia Flyers. Philly sports guy, if you're listening,
Yes, they are fire.
when we start our hockey show, we're going to be talking a lot of Philadelphia Flyers hockey and Metropolitans. That's going to be fun once we get that. Up.
Can't wait to tune in.
Yep. And for the wild card right now, if the season ended today, your first wild card would be the Detroit Red Wings. Nobody wants to play them because they are a team that, even though their record is 32-20, okay, actually 32-20-6, all right, they're a team that can still sneak up on you from behind if you do not bring your A game to play them. Just ask the Rangers at the beginning of the season when we lost 5-0 to them. Okay, so the second wild card spot is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the thing that doesn't go away. Just when you think that this team is going to go belly up, right about this time, they start heating up. And you know that once they make the Stanley Cup playoffs, they are definitely a threat to do some damage and win a round or two. Maybe find themselves in the conference finals, if things break right. And they're in the lucky
like
second, they're in the lucky second wild card spot. And the reason why I say the lucky second wild card spot is go back to last year's NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. The Bruins played the Florida Panthers. Everyone was already penciling in the Bruins going to the second round, and it was going to be a 4-0 sweep. Guess what? The Florida Panthers, everybody forgot that the Florida Panthers had a say in that. And just when you thought maybe they had said, okay, how much of this Panthers mystique is going to carry over into the second round? They get through the second round. Then they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they were practically handing it to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
They found a way to beat them. And you know what? They made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. This is proof positive that it does not matter where you place. It's who you have to face in the first round.
Yes.
And I tell
you,
for the standings, for the overall standings, all right? Now, if we go up and down the Atlantic, actually, let's go conference. All right. The Boston Bruins are first overall. The Rangers are second overall. Okay. So let's say theoretically the season ended today. The Rangers would probably end up playing the Detroit Red Wings. In the first round of the playoffs. The Boston Bruins would end up playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round of the playoffs. Because that's how the new wildcard format works. Okay? Highest seed gets lowest seed. Second highest seed gets second lowest seed. Okay? The reason why I told people not to sleep on the Florida Panthers getting in to, Chris Palme right over there. Can you put that comment on there?
Yep, I got you. Chris Palme.
Yep.
And that's exactly right. The Red Wings are red
Wings
hot.
are a team that nobody wants to play right now.
That's right.
They are a team that nobody wants to play. And they're in the spot right now. Yup, Patrick Kane, especially a healthy Patrick Kane that they have. All right. Not the Rangers that we had a semi-healthy Patrick Kane, who did little damage in the Stanley Cup playoff. Don't get me started about last year. But
the other man has to rebuild the franchise. That's true.
Right. So, you're talking about a Red Wings team right now. They're getting hot. They're starting to pick up steam. Tampa Bay Lightning starting to pick up steam. Division leaders are trying to put some distance between themselves and the second place team. Because if you fall out of that, then that's a completely different matchup that you're going to have to look at. So, there's a lot to be said about the NHL playoffs. Now, I talked about the New Jersey Devils, right? And the reason why I talked about the New Jersey Devils is I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to talk about the wild card standings. The New Jersey Devils right now have the Washington Capitals in front of them. And the Capitals, right above them, is the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Islanders are right behind the Devils. So there was a question that maybe the Islanders might be looking to be sellers because Brock Nelson's name has been thrown around. Matthew Barzal's name has actually been floated, although I think that's utter crap. I don't think they're going to get rid of Matthew Barzal. But there are different. This part in the season, you start to see teams right now that look up at the standings. They look at their remaining schedule and they say, you know what? Instead of being sellers, we might be buyers. We might be able to go and to put, if we get a player or two, we could make a push for that wild card 2 spot, or we could make a push for that wild card 1 spot.
Now, what are your thoughts on the Colorado Avalanche? Because they're not completely out of it.
No,
they're 35, 19, and 5.
I'm actually glad you brought them up because I'm going to pull up the Western Conference.
They had their main star that just came back from being injured, I think. Nachuskin. He's just supposed to be resumed practice with him with the Avalanche here.
Yep.
With the player assistance program. So that's going to be a huge addition if he's able to come back and, sustain play, especially because they're only 4 points behind the Dallas leaders there.
Yep, that's true. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. In the Central Division, you got the Dallas Stars in first place. You got the Winnipeg Jets right behind them. And then, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. The Avalanche are always dangerous. You can never count them out. Especially not with Nate McKinnon in that lineup. You just can't. And of course, Alexander Georgiev, he wasn't an all-star by accident. He was an all-star because he plays his ass off, and he showed it. Now in the Pacific Division, you got the Vancouver Canucks, right? Vegas Golden Knights, even though they're right now, they were on a little bit of they've lost 3 in a row. So they were on a little bit of a losing streak. Then they broke it and still haven't been able to carry off some momentum. So they need to get off the schneid. And of course, we talked about the Edmonton Oilers, right? The Edmonton Oilers, they're right behind Vegas in that Pacific Division. Now your wild cards, if the season ended today, all right, the LA Kings would be the first wild card. I hate the Kings. I absolutely hate the Kings. I hate the Kings.
And CJ, we got to wrap it up because we got like 30 seconds.
Yep. Oh,
so you can get them right on here.
Yep. And real quick, the Nashville Predators, believe it or not, who are starting to make a push. There. That's all I got. NHL talk.
That's all you got? Everybody, this hour goes by so fast, everybody. We got another show that's coming up behind us, so we have to hop off of here. But as always, thank you, CJ, the Painkiller D. Simone from Mission Briefs, from coming on and joining me tonight. Thank you, everyone, for the love, the comments, the shares, and all that good stuff. Hope you all have a great night.
This is Northeast Streaming Sports.